Hello friends, welcome to Daily Sourdough. Today we are going to make one of the most requested recipes, sourdough dinner rolls, because that is always a favorite at a meal, especially this time of year, and delicious. You'll want to make sure that your starter is really lively, and as you can tell, mine is lively. It's been spilling out over the edge. I fed it last night, so it should be ready to go. Let's get started. Get this open. Ooh. Yeah, that is bubbly. I'm going to use my stand mixer today, although you can mix this by hand. My hands are just so sore today from this really cold weather that I'm going to use the mixer instead of my hands. Start with 1 cup of starter. To that, add 1 cup of nice and warm water. So about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, add 6 tablespoons of softened butter. Add 1/3 cup of sugar, or you could use honey, and 1 egg that's been just slightly beaten. Put all of that in your stand mixer bowl, and then mix that up until it's really smooth. I have 5 cups of all-purpose flour divided into 2 separate bowls. This bowl has 2 cups of flour, and to that I'm going to add 2/3 cup of dry milk. So this is just powdered milk, and then 2 teaspoons of sea salt. And the reason I'm mixing it in this separate bowl is because mixing powdered milk into the fluid, into the liquid bowl, always makes it lumpy. So your milk gets really lumpy in there and it's hard to mix up. But if you mix it with the flour first, then it mixes much more smoothly. So just gently mix that together and then add that to your liquid ingredients. Then mix that up until it's really smooth and satiny. Now add the remaining 3 cups of flour, just a little at a time, like maybe 1 cup and then another cup and then a 1/2 cup, because you don't want to add too much flour. You want to just make sure that you have the right consistency and you're not adding too much flour to make a stiff dough. You should use all 5, most likely you're going to use all 5 cups, but let's just add it a little at a time to make sure. So I'll add a cup and then we'll mix it up until it's nice and smooth again. The amount of flour you use will be determined by the hydration level of your starter. If your starter is really wet, then you'll use more flour. If it's dry, you'll use less flour. If you use honey versus sugar, that will change the amount of flour you add. So make sure that you're watching your dough. You want a really soft dough, but it doesn't need to be overly sticky. So just add the remaining flour a little bit at a time. I'll just add a 1/2 cup here and see if that will be enough, because it's getting close. I ended up adding about 4 3/4 cups of flour, and now my dough feels like it's about the right texture. I'm going to take my paddle out and switch the paddle out for a dough hook so that I can knead my dough right in the bowl. My hands are just so sore today. So I swapped the paddle out for the dough hook, and now we will let this knead for 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll see how it looks. I let my dough knead for about 7 to 8 minutes, and it is really nice. Now remove your dough from the bowl, and it should be easy to just pull right out of there. Should be really soft, just tacky to the touch, but easy to manipulate. Then put a little bit of oil in your bowl and place your dough back in. Flip your dough over so that the top is greased as well. Cover this and let it rise for 7 or 8 hours. It's going to take a good long rise. This is your bulk fermentation period. You want your dough to be really puffy and soft. It's going to double in size, and so it'll take, especially on a cold day like today, it'll take 7 or 8 hours. The dough has risen so well, it's so puffy and light, and we are ready to roll it out. This will make quite a few rolls, so we are going to cut this dough in half, and I'll show you how to roll 2 different styles of dinner rolls. The first style is called the Parker House roll, and this is the style of roll that my mother made every year for Thanksgiving. So it's a real tradition in her home and just reminds me of home. Roll your dough out to about 1/2 inch thick, and then using either a donut cutter or an English muffin cutter, something you can even use just the top of a mason jar lid, anything like that, and cut your dough into these beautiful circles. Lightly grease a baking sheet. Then take a small pat of butter and place it on one side of each round like this. Then fold your circle in half so you create this little moon shape. Place it on your cookie sheet and then press the front edges down. That seals the butter in and makes a cute little half moon dinner roll. Then roll out the rest of your dough and repeat until you have rolled out all of your dough and cut them and shaped them. And these rolls always remind me of the first year that I was making Thanksgiving dinner for my new little family, and I had a little daughter. My oldest daughter was 3 years old, and then I had a little baby, and I was making Parker House rolls. I had them all rolled out and sitting on the tray, rising in the sun, inside on the table in the sunny window, and my little daughter came in from playing in the sandbox, and she said, "Oh, what are these pretty things?" And she started touching every roll with her sandy hands. So every time I make Parker House rolls, I think of her little sandy fingers touching all of my new rolls that I just made for the first time ever. But it's kind of a fun little memory now, even though we ate gritty rolls that Thanksgiving. I hope my daughter watches this video and that my little grandsons get to hear that story of their mama touching the rolls. And I hope they come in and touch her rolls with their sandy fingers so she can have a story to tell. Now cover these with a damp tea towel or lightly cover it with a plastic wrap and set these aside to rise for probably an hour to 2 hours, depending on how warm your house is. And then when they're really nice and puffy, we'll pop them in the oven. Now we'll use the second half of the dough to make a croissant dinner roll. And these are always so pretty to serve and easy to make. Just roll your dough out into a nice circle. Try to make an even circle. And roll it kind of thin because you're going to be rolling the dough up, creating layers. so you'll want it kind of thin to start with. Then with my pizza wheel, just take your pizza wheel and cut your dough as if you're cutting a pizza. So we'll probably do maybe 8 rolls out of this. And if you want your rolls to be smaller than this, just cut them into 16. So this is going to make, a good sized dinner roll. Take some softened butter and just spread a light coat of butter on each little triangle that you've cut. Lightly grease your baking pan. Then, starting at the big side of each roll, of each piece of dough, then begin rolling that up. And it creates a little croissant shape. And if you like, you can twist them, you can kind of curve them like that if you want, or you can leave them straight. And these really make a beautiful dinner roll. And some of these are looking kind of big. So I actually think I'm going to cut some of these in half again to make smaller rolls. That way if somebody doesn't want such a large roll, they can choose a smaller one. Now cover this with a damp tea towel or some plastic wrap and let them also rise for another hour to 2 hours. Have your oven preheated to 400 degrees, then pop them in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Friends, sourdough dinner rolls are the best. They're easy on your stomach, so delicious, tender, light, fluffy, and you can make any shape you want. I have 2 beautiful rolls here. Be sure to try this recipe. You're going to love it. It turns out so well. And be sure to stay tuned for more recipes coming up on Daily Sourdough.